Today, I'm exploring an abandoned tuberculosis sanatorium that opened up in 1905. Tuberculosis is a deadly respiratory disease that has been around for centuries and unfortunately has killed millions. Patients were subjected to risky surgeries, removing their ribs to get to their lungs. A cure was formulated in the 1950s, making these buildings obsolete. Today, we're heading inside and starting in the basement. This is what we found in the basement. It looks like some sort of surgery setup, or maybe for autopsy, something like that. It was kind of shocking to turn the corner and see all this old medical equipment just sitting here, you know. This is stuff you see in a museum. And it's just weird because look at this table. It must have been for autopsies because it has a hole here for the blood to drain. There's obviously a stain there. These stains don't look like fake blood to me. It looks like rusty blood that's been sitting here over time. But it's weird to think, you know, when you see this stuff, usually you only see it in movies and it's just a prop, you know, but this is the real thing. People died here, their bodies laid right here on these tables. So it's really sad, it's a really heavy feeling just to be down here surrounded by this stuff. Here is another piece of medical equipment, and like I just really have no idea like what this stuff really is. It's super old, super dated, but you can tell that just by looking at it. All this stuff just doesn't look like it's from this century. It's like it's been frozen in time down here. And this was a portable light. They would use this to examine the bodies and look at them, but I've never seen one that looks like this. It almost looks like a lantern on the inside if you look like that. Very strange setup. You can see, you know, it was able to be moved around into different rooms and stuff, so I don't even know if this was the room originally where they used it. Another piece of medical equipment looks like something would drain into this jar down here. Looks like there was a spot for another one as well. Here's the top of it. I'll kind of go in close to show you guys. It's really fascinating to see all this stuff, and I wish I knew more about it. So I just wanted to say, I know a lot of these old machines, they look like they're some sort of pump, and there's one here that has that jar, you know, this one down there as well, and even if you look over here, you know, it's the same sort of concept. So I think what these could have been were to help pump blood back into patients. Tuberculosis, the surgeries were notoriously bloody. They were cutting out your ribs, you know, to get to your lungs. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's what these machines were used for, to help pump blood back into the patients after massive loss. But, you know, I don't totally know that. That's just kind of what I'm going off of and just from my prior knowledge. So this little device right here was what gave me the idea that this, you know, maybe was a room for surgery. But I'm not sure. I don't know if this piece was always here in this section, but it says post-operative pump. And this thing here looks so cool. But all I can get from this, it says Spectronic 20 on it. I also thought this was very creepy down here. There's like someone's wig just on the ground. Now it's just covered in glass and dust, but I wondered like who this belonged to and how did it end up down here on the ground in this weird room. A bunch of old test tubes, you know, just left out here. These ones look like they haven't even been used yet, but then when you look over here, there's this rust-colored stain on this table. So I don't know what was here or what kind of samples they were using, you know, possibly blood or other things like that. We're gonna take tunnels to the other buildings. This is the basement of the first building. Right in front is the tunnel entrance, and then we have this ancient looking hospital bed gurney. I'm not really sure, but when you take a closer look, you can see, you know, that little handle down there where you could raise it up and down. And this thing has just, look how rusted. You know, all the years of decay are starting to add up, but it does have straps on it, so patients were being strapped down here. You know, with something like this, looks like an airplane seatbelt. Crazy to think about that this thing right here was once used to transport patients, probably using this elevator here or through the tunnels as well. And now it's just a remnant of the past, you know, left here to be forgotten about. We are actually heading into the tunnels to try to find the other buildings that are here. So right now we are in the one section of this TB hospital. This place treated patients who had tuberculosis. You know, back in the day, that was a huge pandemic. This building was the women's wards, and there's 4 buildings. This one is very close to an active nursing home, so I'm trying to stay quiet, and this one is very decayed, very destroyed. So we're gonna hop in some of the other ones, and I'm gonna show you what's in there. Hopefully there's a lot of vintage and antique medical equipment, chairs, stuff like that we're gonna find here. So let's do it, let's explore more. Here's one of the bigger sections. These are probably rooms where they would open up the windows, let patients relax, and get some fresh air. That was supposedly a cure back in the day. It was fresh air, you know, being in nature. That was what they prescribed to these patients. Unfortunately, that wasn't a cure, and it didn't really help, but you know, they didn't really know as much back then, and they were still learning about tuberculosis. Now we're down on the first floor of that same building. It's hard to move around here because all the windows are blown out, so there are people walking around this campus, so we're taking our time and being stealthy and just, you know, doing our best to explore everything. But this is the first floor, like I said, so there is some wheelchairs down here, so I'm gonna take you closer and show you those. It's the first wheelchair that we've seen, actually. And this is definitely a way more modern style wheelchair. That was probably here towards the end. Down towards the tuberculosis wards, it's a different story. And I'm gonna take you down there and show you. This section here was where the patients stayed. These were their rooms. And a lot of them, unfortunately, did die inside this place from tuberculosis before the cure was made. So you can even look in here and see some remnants of beds. But this was their room. They would open these windows up, kind of like the same setup upstairs, you know. This just is a little less decayed, so it's easier to picture and imagine it. Here's the old, creepy wheelchairs. These things are all wooden, so you can tell they are definitely dated. These are probably some of the first patients who came to this place were sitting in this. And now it'll be forgotten forever, but hopefully through this video some people will see it and get to enjoy these one last time. It's so easy just to walk through here and, you know, think this place is just a creepy abandoned building. But for many people, this was their life. This is where they lived, where they stayed, where they died, and eventually, you know, where some of them were cured of tuberculosis. This hospital was known for creating the cure, and that's why it's abandoned, and that's why it's so famous. You know, just walking down these wards, you can feel the sadness in the air. You can feel that energy. It's very intense. You can only imagine what it was like to go through that, what it was like to have tuberculosis. You're basically just choking on your own blood, coughing, wheezing. It was terrible, a terrible thing. Okay, so right now we are in the tunnels and we're heading to the next building. We just got into the third building. So we've got some patient gurneys here. Pretty intense to see this, and you can tell this is different from what we saw downstairs that had the hole in the center for a blood drain. This one was just probably for a patient, they're transporting patients. We are gonna head down here. As you can see, the ceiling looks like it's about to collapse, so we're gonna just be really careful. I just noticed this piano. I didn't even see it the first time I walked by it. It's just so decayed. And I wonder who was playing this thing, you know, back in the day. You can see some of the keys are left here. They don't budge at all. And I just noticed this. bunch of these sewing machines. These are so cool. It's not every day I get to see these old school sewing machines like this. They could be Singer sewing machines. I know that's very common back in the day. But look at them now. You know, these things one time were pristine, state-of-the-art machines. And now they're literally rust buckets. Another wheelchair just left behind. And I always think the same thing, you know, when I see these sewing machines and this wheelchair set up like this, you know, I can just picture a patient sitting here, you know, sewing some clothes or sewing a blanket or something. You know, it's like a moment in time and it's just repeating itself. I thought this was pretty cool. Definitely from the 70s. I mean, that's when this place closed down, around 1970. And you can just tell, flipping through this magazine, look at the styles. You know, everything changed, but, you know, I doubt there's a lot of these left over. And this one is just frozen in time here, you know, waiting to decay. And look, they even got the ad for the little camera. That's funny. And we just got up to another floor. This one's pretty barren, but I just want you to picture this section here just filled with beds. Rows and rows of beds, probably actually just one row of beds here. And that's where the TB patients would get their fresh air, kind of like I was explaining before, but this one actually, you can actually visualize it a lot more. You can see this section is just a massive empty room, and I'm not really gonna walk in there because the floor does kind of look disheveled. And I don't want to fall to my death. That would be unfortunate. Oh, this little setup over here, I thought this was really cool. Got the old, I think this is a typewriter or a cash register or something. Very hard to tell what this is. The buttons are all seized up. See here, this is a temperature chart, and this tracked the patient's temperature when they were in here. So a nurse would do this for the patients. So this is really cool. This is actually amazing. This is like a little mock situation setup. It's got a patient's bed here. We got all these examining lights on them. This piece of machinery here. So just this room here can just take you back in time. You know, use your imagination to, you know, picture what this was like back in the day. And these are crazy. These are some classic, like, salon chairs. And it's something I really didn't expect to see in here, but it's good to know that the patients definitely had a salon and they were able to, you know, have that sense of normalcy, to go to a place, get their hair done, you know, and try to forget about what was really going on. Right now we're in one of the last sections. We're actually a floor above where we were before, and we found some cribs. Really unsettling to see this, especially the way they look. It just looks like a horror movie. I know, it's crazy. There's a lot of unique stuff in here that we haven't seen yet. I mean, I don't even know what to tell you on this, guys, what this could be. I have no idea. There's all this colored sand on the ground, and then we look up and yep, it's still going, and then it ends right there. So who knows what this was? Some sort of pressurized test or something, but check out that sand. This looks crazy. I've never seen anything like this before. Very unique. Down toward the end of this hallway, we got another wheelchair, classic patient gurney, and another more modern style gurney. Now these are just left here. You know, it's crazy just to see all this stuff just left behind like this, you know? It just doesn't feel real. I feel like I'm inside of American Horror Story right now. Alright, so we're in this last building right here, and we're gonna end the video on that note because we just explored 4 massive buildings. All these buildings were part of a tuberculosis hospital, and we found some amazing antique medical instruments that I've never seen. I've only even seen pictures of them, and some of them, like the thing behind me, I've never even seen it before. So there's a lot of unique stuff here, and I'm glad that we could explore this full thing and take you along so you can enjoy it as well. If you haven't already, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and always get out and explore more. Peace.